Episode number 211 3, VS 3, 211 3 versus 3, aye.
Who do you think you are?
Call's astral wave burst as he shouted toward Kane. He did not bother to hide the rage on his face, nor his intention to fight. Silence reigned as soldiers and students saw that. Dominic and Amos had unleashed their auras, but neither deployed their wave cloak, since that would quickly escalate things. Kane stopped moving and slowly turned around as a red light burst from his eyes, and the full power of his ego wave emerged the next second. The red force field rose like a mighty pillar into the sky before crashing down on Call, forcefully scanning this one. The student could not do anything since he had not even taken a step in the ego eternal path of power. Call could not fight against the red force field, but luckily 2 blasts of dense waves appeared next to him, making Kane retrieve his ego wave. Call smiled as Dominic appeared by his side, making courage return to his heart. Dominic did not really care about Call, but he could not let Kane simply look down on the student force.
You took all the resources in the zone, including the ones on our side of the mountain. I just did what you would have done in our place, not to mention, since when do I have to ask for permission to take something I want?
Kane's voice was cold, and it was clear he was not willing to back down.
HPHM, we would never have acted so shamelessly as you.
Call shouted toward Kane, but his words made Dominic frown since anyone could see the falsehood in them.
What a ridiculous lie, and even if what you say is true, that only means you are stupid.
Call could not contain his rage and was about to flash forward when 2 figures appeared next to Kane, each unleashing a wave much greater than his own. Anthony and William stared at the student with coldness. Kane was the hunt leader and the great commander of the entire military force present, so Call's disrespect was an offense to all of them. Call froze when he felt the power of Anthony and William, and the frustration in his heart only grew when he saw that 2 military members at the same age were able to become wave champions with a much better foundation than his. Apprehension emerged when he felt the eyes of the duo on him, but he was able to calm down when he remembered that Dominic and Amos were by his side. Kane stared at the trio before glancing at Anthony and William, and then he began to walk forward. The duo did not hesitate before marching by his side, increasing their energy with every step. Dominic's eyes narrowed as he saw that and turned toward Amos. They stared at each other for a moment before nodding and walking forward as well. Call was a little taken aback by their behavior, but was able to compose himself and accompany the duo. The thousands of soldiers and students saw that, but none dared to intervene. This was a clash between the best of each group, and if they were to meddle, it would turn into an all-out fight, something neither side wanted. When both sides were 200 meters from each other, Dominic rose to the sky, standing over 50 meters in the air before taking out his broadsword and waving it down. That simple motion generated a small green tornado that came crashing down at the young man in the lead of the enemy's side. Kane saw that tornado coming at him and felt its immense force but kept walking as if nothing was happening. Just as the attack was about to land on him, a barrage of golden arrows tore it apart. Anthony had risen to the sky, and after tearing down that tornado, he charged his bow, unleashing a new barrage of golden arrows toward Dominic. Each projectile was spinning at an incredible speed, granting them immense penetration power. Dominic could not afford to split his focus, using all his power to face those golden arrows. He waved his broadsword from one side to the other, generating walls of supercompressed air that stopped the projectiles. As a battle burst in the sky, Amos's body ignited with red flames and unleashed a controlled explosion from his feet, propelling his body forward at a shocking speed. Just like Dominic, Amos targeted the one at the lead, but before he could come anywhere close to Cyan, a man covered in a freezing aura intercepted him.
Boom!
Amos' explosive fist and William's frost palm clashed, generating a blast of fire and ice. One used powerful flames and explosions, while the other used ice and cold energy. Amos' punch carried an explosion that made William's arm tremble, but he did not come intact from the clash since a thick layer of ice covered his hand. Extreme focus appeared on Amos and William's faces since the strength and skills of the other were perfect counters to their respective battle styles. Amos' eyes grew sharp as he emptied his mind of everything else and focused solely on William. William flashed forward, dodging Amos' punch and landing a palm strike on the chest of this one, sending him flying away. Carl's eyes widened as he saw the level of the battles that the other wave champions could achieve, and he knew he did not come anywhere close to that. We are at the same cultivation level, yet there is so much difference between us.
Thumpy.
A powerful heartbeat drew Carl's attention, and he saw how Cain continued walking toward him, unleashing a blast of blood lightning. Carl clenched his teeth as he made his astral wave explode, making his entire body adopt a silver color as black armor covered him. He was not over as he took out a massive spiked rod from his space ring, and the force enhancing his skin spread into the weapon. The red light in Cain's eyes reached its zenith as he stared at the wave champion before him. This would be the first time he had a genuine fight against a cultivator above the wave warrior rank. Orlando was a very weak wave champion that rose upon reaching level 7, not to mention the old man was exhausted before the fight even started. Let's see how much I have grown in half a year. Current schedule, 7 chapters a week, bonus chapters. Over 400 power stones, 1 extra episode number. Over 800 power stones, 2 extra chapters. Over 1,200 power stones, 3 extra chapters. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 212-3, VS3, EI. Carl clenched his teeth, and his heartbeat grew faster as he saw Cain's red eyes focused on him. There was no way he could keep calm facing the willpower of a wave king.
Alright.
Carl shouted as he made his astral wave burst, waving his spiked rod toward Cain with all his power.
Boom.
The spiked rod generated a small blast upon impact, but did not come close to hitting its target. Cain easily dodged the rod, and his eyes narrowed as he saw the clumsiness with which Carl used the weapon. While the Scion could use his skill to enhance the weapon, it was clear he had little proficiency in it. Unless your weapon mastery is as good as the one you have over your own arms, there is no point for astral cultivators to use them. It must be a decision made out of fear. All those thoughts crossed Cain's mind as he saw the rod on the ground, but he did not waste too much time in useless thoughts and carried on with his counter, sending a blow covered in blood lightning to Carl's liver. As soon as his punch landed, Cain knew there was a problem. It had massive strength since he focused most of his astral wave, but Carl's resistance after using the skill and wearing the armor was no joke. Carl felt pain, but there was also a smile on his face as he understood that his body could handle Cain's attack without much problem. He raised his rod from the ground and waved it to the side with so much strength that it generated a small gale. Cain pushed his body to the ground, dodging the weapon again, before rising with all his strength and sending an uppercut. He hoped the blow would shake Carl's brain, giving him a moment to trigger blood revolution. Unfortunately, Cain underestimated Carl's endurance. The uppercut was very powerful but failed to numb the Scion, and before Cain could unleash his attack, a powerful silver rod came rushing at him. Cain knew he could not dodge the rod and could only raise his arms, making a shield with them before focusing on them all of his astral wave.
Boom.
The attack carried all of Carl's strength and sent Cain flying away, making blood emerge from the corner of his mouth and numbing his arms.
Ha ha, that is what you.
Carl was not able to finish his sentence after that lucky strike since Cain immediately flashed back into the fray, appearing right in front of him before thrusting an index finger into his chest. Absolute shock appeared on Carl's face when he saw how that index finger pierced his armor and began to drill into his skin.
Get out.
The Scion screamed in fear as he waved his rod like a madman. Although the attack lacked any sort of finesse, it forced Cain to pull back. Cain's eyes narrowed as he saw that even with Blood Index, he could not instantly overcome Carl's defenses. Of course, it would be different if he aimed at the back of the head, but that would most likely cripple, if not kill, the Scion, which was going a step too far. Carl's breathing was rough, and the threat of death made him go wild as he dashed toward Cain and began to strike with his rod using all his strength. Cain could dodge all those strikes, but unless he wanted to wait until Carl ran out of energy, he had to find a way to improve his striking power without aiming at a vital point. After around a minute of dodging the rod, Kane's eyes narrowed, and he took a deep breath as two of his fingers began to turn into red gems. Kane had already finished with Blood Index and had begun to master Blood Hand. Right now, he could transform his index and part of his middle finger. That increased the strength of his fist exponentially, but also drained a lot of his energy, so he had to end things fast. Carl had just buried his rod into the ground when he felt another of Kane's punches on his liver, but things were different now. He felt as if Kane's fist was a hammer, and the index and middle fingers were two nails buried into his abdomen. The Scion's eyes widened with pain, and before he could even adjust, another blow landed on his jaw, making his eyes lose focus for a second.
Boom.
A blast echoed across the battlefield as Kane connected a full power punch into Carl's chest, sending this one flying away. Although the Scion paralysis was the perfect chance for blood revolution, Kane feared that using it alongside Blood Hand could crack Carl's skull and produce severe brain trauma. Kane deactivated Blood Hand the next second and flashed toward Carl, sending a ferocious kick that carried all his talk to the Scion's head before this one could get up. That was just the beginning of Kane's onslaught. Blood Hand did its job wounding Carl greatly, and now his normal attacks were enough to handle the rest. Soldiers and students saw the battle between their best warriors, and their expressions could not be more different. The first group was full of excitement, while those in the second could not help but look away. The fight between Dominic, Antony, Amos, and William was close, with neither side being able to overwhelm the other. Nevertheless, Kane practically tossed Carl around like this one was a puppet. Those powerful enough understood that the key behind Kane's dominion was not exactly the young soldier's strength, but his enemy's lack of battle awareness. The only thing Carl gained by using a rod was that Kane could easily predict his movements, so victory was never a question. It was just a matter of time before the soldier emerged victorious, but Kane did shock people by being able to fire strikes that could easily break Carl's defenses.
BOOMMMs.
A final blast marked the end of the battle, as Kane activated Blood Hand one last time to punch Carl in the chest, burying this one into the ground. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 213, Going Up.
BOOMMMs.
Dominic and Amos noticed the blast and glanced to the side, only to see Kane standing atop an unconscious Carl. Garbage. Useless. The duo cursed in their minds when they saw that Carl not only lost against Kane, but was not able to last for over 10 minutes against someone that had yet to become a level 7 wave warrior. Dominic unleashed a small tornado, while Amos triggered a massive explosion, pushing their respective opponents away before pulling back. Antony and William were about to chase after the duo, but stopped once Kane raised his hand.
The fight is over. Remember to stay in your lane, or else the next time I will not contain myself.
Kane kicked Carl's massive body, sending this one crashing toward Dominic before turning around.
Back to the encampment. Take the rest of the day to rest.
The instant the thousands of soldiers heard those words, they all immediately followed the command. Kane's aura had grown so strong that his word was law, and everybody had to follow them no matter their strength or military rank. Dominic saw how the military force acted around Kane and could not help but clench his fists. Again and again, he found himself losing against Kane. If not for his cultivation, he would have no way to compare himself with that young monster. Dominic was quite arrogant, being the scion of an extremely powerful noble family that had existed for thousands of years, and whose authority on the collapsing lightning sector was only second to the collapsing lightning duke. He could not conceive that someone who came from nothing was stealing the spotlight from him. HMPH, no matter what, I will teach you that your place is beneath me. A vicious light appeared in Dominic's eyes as he glanced at a group of women at the back of the student fosse. That was a group of beautiful women with decent cultivation, since none was beneath level 4. However, many had downcast expressions on their faces, and the other student looked at them with a mixture of pity and disdain. Kane had told the soldiers to rest since, from tomorrow, they would not avoid battles and continue with their mission of exterminating every wave beast in the area. He had just reached his tent and was preparing to sleep when he heard a voice in his mind.
Are you not bothered by that group of women?
Cain was surprised to hear Apex speak about that. He had noticed those women and had an idea of their current state. It was not secret for Cain there were cultivation techniques that used sexual intercourse to train, and those women must be the so-called
Cultivation furnaces.
Since Cain considered himself a hero, he was not very fond of the strong abusing the weak. However, it would be foolish for him to start a clash against the student Foss for something like that, not to mention that a significant portion of those women was fine with that sort of arrangement, since it also benefited their cultivation.
If I could save those in need with my power, I would. Yet I am too weak to face the entire student force and not stupid enough to waste my life for people I know nothing about. There is one that you know.
Cain frowned when he heard that and went back to his memories. The next second, his eyes widened as he saw that Cynthia was actually among that group of women.
Have things changed?
Apex's voice had a provoking tone, as if he dared Cain to act based on this information. Cain's eyes burst with red light as he adopted a meditative position.
What do you think? Ha, you have grown, brat.
Cain only smiled as he heard Apex's compliment and soon fell asleep. Although doing it in a meditative position was not ideal, he was in enemy territory and needed to be ready in case anything happened. After rising over 10,000 meters into Blade Mountain, the number of wave beasts they found decreased tremendously to the point that there were packs of only 20 to 100 creatures. Nevertheless, their individual power rose to a whole new level. In the following weeks, soldiers and students began to advance up in Blade Mountain, killing all the wave beasts in their path and harvesting more and more resources. Each group took a different edge to keep a certain distance between themselves. An invisible line divided Blade Mountain, and neither side crossed it since they had more than enough fighting the immensely powerful wave champion beasts on their path. After rising over 10,000 meters into Blade Mountain, the number of wave beasts they found decreased tremendously to the point that there were packs of only 20 to 100 creatures. Nevertheless, their individual power rose to a whole new level. It was not hard to find packs made of 50 wave beasts, with none beneath the early wave champion rank and more than a handful at the middle wave champion rank. Cain was in his tent, analyzing the current state of the battlefield. The situation right now made moving with a massive army impractical. Although sending thousands of low-level wave warriors to attack those packs full of wave champions beasts would certainly weaken the enemy, the casualties would be astronomical. And there was also the fact that powerful soldiers could not fight at full power for fear of collateral damage. Cain's eyes grew sharp as he analyzed his own strength and felt the bursting astral wave inside him. It had been over 2 months since he reached Blade Mountain's foot, and the combination of high-level resources and the constant battle had solidified his cultivation.
System, in my current state, what would happen if I fight the Lightning Fall Mantis in a direct one-on-one battle?
The absolute life form system immediately carried on with the command, and Cain felt how it produced countless simulations before answering. According to data obtained from 1,000 simulations, there is an 8% chance of Vessel killing the middle wave champion beast, a 81% chance of Vessel forcing the middle wave champion beast to run with severe injuries, a 10% chance of the middle wave champion beast forcing Vessel to run with severe injuries, a 1% chance of the middle wave champion beast killing Vessel. Cain showed a small smile as he analyzed that information. He was powerful enough to defeat middle wave champion beast, but a single mistake could lead to his death, so he could not lower his guard. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 214, Killing a Middle Wave Champion Beast, I. 214, Killing a Middle Wave Champion Beast, I.
My current strength allows me to lead a team that can face hordes with a small number of middle wave champion beasts. Good.
Only Antony and William could surpass Cain in battle strength in the entire military force in Blade Mountain. Uriel was also very strong, but the pressure of this mission and lack of resources had pushed back the young man's cultivation, and he remained a level 9 wave warrior for the moment.
System, give a list of every soldier capable of enduring the onslaught of an early wave champion beast for an entire minute without assistance. Exclude Uriel, the vice captains working with him, and every soldier in their squads.
Although ignoring 10% of the military force would reduce the number of soldiers available, Kane would not pick people he did not trust for a mission where a single wrong step could lead to catastrophic casualties. The Absolute Life Form system had already scanned every single one of the thousands of soldiers fighting beside Kane, so it was able to do that analysis. It took around 5 minutes before a list with 178 names appeared in Kane's mind. Kane was slightly surprised to see that Levi, Auron, and Lumia were among those capable of facing an early wave champion beast. As he analyzed their stats, he saw that the trio had already become level 7, and their foundation was very strong. If they kept their momentum, there was a high chance they could reach flawless marrow or deep basic law understanding. He was even more amazed when he saw that Levi had generated a secondary energy pool similar to his blood energy and that the strength stat of this one surpassed his. A saint technique. Kane was still much stronger than Levi, but it was clear that the young man from the Hellblazer family had found some lucky chances.
Good, I will take the trio into my team.
Using the system aid, Kane formed 3 massive teams with over 50 people each. The leaders will be he, Antony, and William, and they will separate from the main force and hunt down packs composed of wave champion beasts. Remaining with the main force would only slow them down now that there were no thousands of weak wave beasts around them. Kane did not waste time and sent the command soon after, ensuring everything was in order. All the soldiers received Kane's message through their AI chips and instructions on how to proceed. The ones whose names were mentioned felt their blood burning. The wealth they would gain would be amazing, not to mention that fighting wave champion beasts would push them beyond their limit. Of course, everybody knew that the mission would be extremely dangerous, but Kane's name in the order extinguished all those worries. As for the ones that would not participate in the mission, Kane commanded them to maintain order in the air. That was a fancy way of saying they could spend their days inside the encampment using the extremely dense life wave that soaked the air to cultivate. By the time the first ray of sunlight appeared in the sky, Kane, Antony, and William were already outside the encampment with their forces in formation behind them. Although William and Antony were stronger than Kane, the soldiers that ended up in their teams could not help but look at Levi, Auron, Lumia, and the others with envy. William and Antony glanced at each other as they noticed that, but they could only shake their head and show awkward smiles. None of them could deny that Kane had an aura that made it seem there was no problem great enough that could surpass him. Kane took a deep breath as his eyes grew sharp. A powerful blood lightning covered his figure the next second as he dashed forward, followed by the entire force. The 3 groups remained together, as they would only split once Kane gave the signal. Kane's eyes glowed with red light as the full power of his ego wave flooded the mountain. He used his mastery over free ego to make the red force field invisible so as not to warn the wave champion beasts. After a few minutes, his eyes narrowed and focused on 3 different points. They were far away so as not to incite incursion from other packs, but close enough so that the military groups could come to assist in case any problem could occur. Antony and William received a message through their AI chips, and the next second they took the soldiers under their command and moved to the left and right, respectively. The soldiers under Kane did not know where those 2 would go, but it did not matter. Their mission was to follow Kane, and nothing else mattered. Kane's aura kept rising higher and higher as the blood lightning and astral wave around his body generated a thick layer.
Charge into that place.
All the soldiers heard Kane's voice in their minds as he commanded them to enter a large cave 500 meters ahead, only to see him vanish the next second. The leader's disappearance could rock the mind of most soldiers, but the ones that were part of this group had absolute trust in Kane's power and intellect. Levy and 2 level 9 vice captain were the first to enter the cave. There was a radiant sun in the sky, so the place was full of light, making it easy for the trio to see the 23 early wave champion beasts inside. And if that was not enough, there was an even mightier beast at the back of the pack.
PAWOO.
The sound of an elephant trumpeting emerged from the back of the cave, and the entire fosse could see a massive beast nearly 3 meters tall with dark silver skin. It was a silver-hot elephant, and its mere trumpeting generated a sonic blast that almost sent the soldiers flying away. All the soldiers could feel Silverheart Elephant's aura, and it was clear the beast had already become a middle-wave champion beast, maybe even stronger than the Lightning Fall Mantis. Just as the massive Silverheart Elephant was ready to march forward, a figure covered in blood lightning appeared out of nowhere next to its face. The middle-wave champion beast was shocked, and before it could do anything, the humanoid figure landed a devastating blow on its right eye, making it explode. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 215, Killing a Middle Wave Champion Beast. 215, Killing a Middle Wave Champion Beast. Aye.
Kill.
Kane's voice echoed across the cave, erasing the fear from the Silverheart elephants trumpeting in the soldiers and filling them with vigor. The battle formations for the soldiers had already been distributed, so they all knew what to do. Kane smiled as he saw the soldiers instantly adopt battle formations and charge toward the early wave champion beast, free of fear and full of conviction. However, he could not split his focus for much longer as the Silverheart elephant soon raised from the ground, unleashing a powerful life wave. Kane stared at the creature's head and saw how his punch completely shattered the eye and the bones around it. Although the damage was significant, it was far from crippling the middle wave champion beast. That attack carried the full power of Kane's blood hand, not to mention it took the Silverheart elephant by surprise. It can't compare with the Lightning Fall Mantis in terms of speed, but its vitality and defenses are formidable.
PAWRO.
The Silverheart elephant unleashed a battle cry full of killing intent and wrath as it dashed toward Kane, ready to trample the insolent human that dared to destroy its eye. Kane's eyes grew cold as he clenched his right fist with even greater strength. The blood lightning devoured the middle wave champion beast's blood around him, making the power of his blood hand even mightier as he flashed forward. One was a massive beast over 20 tons, while the other was a young human weighing less than 100 kilograms. There was no need to speculate about the winner in a direct clash, but just as they were less than 15 meters away, Kane raised his right arm. Shock appeared in the Silverheart elephant when he saw a sphere of red lightning emerge from Kane's hand. It knew that humans could use spells, but those with the dark purple wave usually used melee skills. The sphere instantly reached its face, and now confusion appeared on the Silverheart elephant as the attack had no power at all. Just as it wondered what the human's plan was, it noticed that this one was no longer in front of it.
Boom.
Before the Silverheart elephant could perceive Kane's presence, he connected a devastating blow to the beast's right ribs.
Oh.
The middle wave champion beast screamed in pain as the blow cracked several ribs and sent its massive body crashing against the back of the cave. Before the Silverheart elephant could rise, Kane unleashed a torrent of blows that pushed it deeper and deeper against the wall. Both of Kane's hands had 3 fingers resembling blood gems. His mastery over Blood Hand allowed him to metamorph more fingers, but that also drained his energy much faster. Kane held his breath and focused his entire body on punching as hard and fast as possible. Every punch he fired generated an indentation on the Silverheart elephant, and he could feel how his fist shattered the muscles, bones, and even lungs. Although the Silverheart elephant had immense vitality and defenses, the blows fired by Kane's blood hand were so powerful that they pinned it against the wall. It went like that for 10 seconds before the drain on his energy was so much that he had to deactivate Blood Hand. The Silverheart elephant felt how the punches no longer incapacitated its body and attacked with its tusks, trying to strike Kane. Yet, the human jumped back, easily avoiding the attack. Kane saw how the Silverheart elephant adopted a battle stance and could feel the beast's strength, but it was clear that the damage it just took significantly reduced its battle power, and the collapsed lung kept draining its energy. If I push myself to my limit, I could end the beast's life in less than 10 minutes. However, that would exhaust me and endanger everybody if something unexpected happened. After a few seconds of deliberation, Kane decided to transform his fight with the Silverheart Elephant into a battle of attrition.
Power.
The middle wave champion beast unleashed a new battle cry as it charged toward Kane, but with much less strength than before. Kane easily dodged the Silverheart Elephant's stomp and violently kicked the beast's knee before jumping back, evading a massive tusk that sought to impale him. The Silverheart Elephant was already slow, and now that it had a collapsed lung and severe internal damage, Kane was able to avoid all its attack using virtual sight and his instincts. The fight with the wounded middle wave champion beast became so simple for Kane that he could use his ego wave to analyze the battle of the rest of the soldiers. Good, none of them has received a severe injury yet, and their teamwork is excellent. Suddenly, Kane frowned as he saw the golden flames covering Levi's body. They were extremely similar to the ones used by the death gods that worked for Orlando, the wave champion puppet master. He remembered very well how those golden flames increased the gods' battle power, but they did in exchange for their blood vitality. A flash of killing intent appeared in Kane's eyes as the idea appeared in his mind that someone was using his friend for some form of experiment. However, Kane soon relaxed once he noticed that Levi's golden flames tapped into the young man's blood vitality, using it as fuel, but at the same time, it made it grow. His saint technique. There was no way a technique with such power would feel beneath the level of a saint technique. It was clear to Kane that the ability had dangers, but if Levi chose to take that path, then everything was all right. A man must be ready to endure the consequences of their choices. Kane smiled as his father's voice appeared again in his mind.
PAWRO.
The Silverheart elephant roared with strength one more time, and its life wave burst with power. The smile on Kane's face made the beast think the human was mocking it.
HMPH.
Kane only sneered as he saw the Silverheart elephant marching toward him like a crazy beast.
Stupid beast.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 216, Killing a Middle Wave Champion Beast, EI. 216, Killing a Middle Wave Champion Beast, III.
Stupid beast.
If the Silverheart elephant had shown wisdom, the battle would have been prolonged for a very long time due to its powerful defenses, but now that it attacked like crazy, things changed. Kane dodged the tusk charged with life wave that sought to drill his chest and dashed forward as his index finger morphed into a blood gem, and he used it to pierce into the Silverheart elephant's neck. The Silverheart elephant's eyes widened as the finger managed to pierce its defenses. Kane did not hesitate before taking the finger out, leaving a massive hole behind that began to bleed profusely. Although the Silverheart elephant managed to push Kane away, its legs were trembling, and it wouldn't be long before it fell to the ground dead. Kane continued striking the middle wave champion beast while conserving his energy and making sure to avoid any form of injury.
Boom.
In 5 minutes, the Silverheart elephant could no longer remain straight and plummeted into the ground, generating a small blast due to its massive weight. Soldiers and wave champion beasts turned toward the blast only to see how Kane buried his entire arm into the dying Silverheart elephant's eyes, devouring the blood of this one. Just as the middle wave champion beast's heart stopped beating, Kane vanished, and the next second, a cry echoed across the cave. One early wave champion beast screamed in pain as Kane pierced its back with his index finger, shattering its spine and destroying many inner organs. Not even a second after, Kane removed his finger from the early wave champion beast's beak and vanished into the darkness again. Fear emerged in the early wave champion beasts, while the soldiers took the chance that their opponent lost their focus to pushing their offensive. Kane emerged again 3 minutes later when an early wave champion beast was about to rip a soldier's arm. He landed a violent fist on the beast's jaw, shattering it before pulling back, vanishing. The battles carried on like that. The soldiers took advantage of the early wave champion beast's lack of focus, and whenever it seemed that one of them might receive a severe wound, Kane would appear and neutralize the attacker. Less than an hour after Kane killed the Silverheart elephant, all 23 early wave champion beasts perished. Some did try to escape, but Cain would send a devastating attack that would push them to the back of the cave. All soldiers had huge smiles as they took out the hearts of the early wave champion beasts and left them at Cain's feet. Although the hearts of those early wave champion beasts were precious, since Cain interfered in all the battles and protected them from the darkness, he had the right to them. Besides, the rest of the cops was still very valuable, and they gained military credits just for killing the beasts. Cain only nodded as he saw those hearts and kept his hand inside the Silverheart elephant's chest. He was only able to take a small portion of the beast's blood before, but now he could devour until the last drop. It took Cain around half an hour to devour the more than 2,000 liters of blood inside the Silverheart elephant's body, and he could feel the vigor and energy running through his veins. The soldiers remained inside the cave, tending to their wounds and recovering their energy, ready to assist Antony or William's groups in case the two needed help. After devouring every ounce of blood inside the Silverheart elephant, Cain used his lightning to burn the massive beast and eat its meat. Cain was not worried about Antony or William, since the packs the duo attacked had the same strength that the one he faced, and they were stronger than him. The only reason he was able to finish first was due to his assassination skills and the Silverheart elephant's foolishness.
It's time to return to the encampment.
The soldiers turned to Cain while he issued that command and stawed the half-eaten middle wave champion beast in his space ring. Everybody nodded and relaxed, since it meant that William and Antony had finished their battles and did not require their help, so everything must have gone smoothly. For the next 2 months, Cain, William, and Antony led their groups higher and higher into Blade Mountain, killing packs full of powerful wave champion beasts. The amount of wealth the trio amassed was shocking, even to peak wave champion. Each kill of a wave champion beast meant a direct reward in terms of military credits, not to mention they could do whatever they wanted with the bodies. The gains did not limit to simply wealth, as the dense life wave, nutritious meat, and life and death battles pushed forward the cultivation of everybody. There were even vice captains that reached the absolute peak of wave warrior and only chose not to rise to wave champion, as they would have to leave Blade Mountain. Facing middle wave champion beasts stopped being a problem for the military force, but they faced a new problem once they reached the midway point to Blade Mountain's peak.
SBOOMMMs.
A massive shock wave emerged once Cain connected his right fist to the arm of a wave champion beast. He had morphed 4 of his fingers into blood gems and channeled a massive amount of astral wave into the arm, so despite the beast blocking the attack, he should have done a significant amount of damage. Nevertheless, the wave champion beast barely moved after blocking Cain's punch, and the next moment it waved its arm, sending him flying away. Cain was in midair and without any control over his body when he saw a beast resembling a gorilla twice his size, with 4 arms and flaming hair. Just as the wave champion beast was about to lunge toward him, a man covered in ice energy tackled it, sending it more than 20 meters away.
The
wave beast instantly regained control over its body and roared in rage toward William before a sea of golden arrows landed on it. Cain, William, and Antony fought together because the enemy was a hell gorilla, a late wave champion beast. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 217, Victory, over a late wave champion beast. 217, Victory, over a late wave champion beast. Antony's light arrows were extremely fast, and the young man's archery skills allowed him to grant them superb rotation and penetration power. Those light arrows had proven extremely effective even among middle wave champion beast with great defenses, so it was no wonder an overwhelming shock would assault Antony's heart when he saw the hell ape jumping toward him with minor wounds. Antony immediately generated platforms of essence wave in the air, kicking them and pushing himself up as he sought to put distance between himself and the formidable beast that sought to rip him to pieces. Unfortunately for Antony, he was not the only one that could use airwalk, as platforms of life wave formed beneath the hell ape's feet that this one used to rise forward without losing momentum. Just as the hell ape was about to reach Antony, 2 figures intercepted it. One was covered in red lightning and the other in cold energy, and both fired a powerful blow to the Hell Ape's stomach, sending this one crashing to the ground.
Boom.
A blast echoed once the massive figure of the Hell Ape reached the ground, but not a second passed before this one rose and flashed toward William. The young astral wave cultivator's eyes widened when he saw the late wave champion beast's massive fist appear right before him. He could not dodge it, so he made a cross with his arms and generated a thick ice layer on top of them.
Crack.
The ice shield crumbled instantly under the might of the Hell Ape's punch, but it was able to drain some of its power. It sent William flying away but failed to break any of the young man's bones. Before the Hell Ape could chase after William, a thick, light spear blasted into its face. The attack infuriated the beast, but most importantly, it hindered its vision and affected his senses.
Boom. Oh.
A shock wave accompanied by a scream of pain echoed once Cain connected a ferocious blow on the back of the Hell Ape's head. He focused all his astral wave and blood energy into that blow while pushing Blood Hand to the limit to enhance his right fist's destructive power. Cain knew that focusing all his astral wave into his fist would leave the rest of his body unprotected, but that was the only way in which he could raise the potency of his attack high enough to harm the beast. That is why he only performed that attack once Antony hindered the Hell Ape's senses, since, otherwise, the danger would have been too much. A small smile appeared on Cain's face as he felt the bones on the Hell Ape's skull cracking, but right then, his instinct began to scream danger. The Hell Ape's eyes almost lost focus due to that blow, but it clenched its teeth as it waved its arm to its back, aiming at the human that dared to sneak up on him. Cain raised his arms and focused his astral wave and blood energy in them as fast as he could before the Hell Ape's forearm clashed with him.
Crack.
The sound of bone shattering emerged from Cain's arms as the Hell Ape's forearm sent him flying away with blood coming out of his mouth. Cain clenched his teeth as he pushed his ego wave to the limit to suppress the pain of having his arms broken and stop himself from losing consciousness. The Hell Ape's eyes burst with killing intent as it focused on Cain, but before he could take a step forward, its knees trembled and it fell to the ground. Cain's punch produced severe brain trauma, and even with its vitality, that was an injury that severely affected its battle power.
Sky rained.
Before the Hell Ape's body could even touch the ground, Cain flashed toward the beast. His arms were broken, but his legs still worked, so he sent a vicious kick covered in astral wave and blood energy to its head. 14:58. Antony did not hesitate to send his most powerful attack once he saw the Hell Ape wounded. He tenses his bow, generating arrow after arrow of light to appear in the sky. Over 200 arrows of light appeared in the sky, draining almost all of Antony's energy pool before falling with immense speed and power over the Hell Ape's figure. The Hell Ape raised its arm over its head, defending itself from the light arrows. The brain trauma hindered its body's movement and domain over life wave, making its wave cloak lose much power. By the time the last light arrow had fallen from the sky, there were dozens of bloody holes all over the late wave champion beast.
Ice Age clash.
Before the Hell Ape could even take a breath, William clashed against this one. A thick, incredibly cold ice armor full of spikes covered the astral wave champion's body, and he collided with the late wave champion beast.
Oh.
The Hell Ape was sent flying away while screaming in pain. The clash not only left new holes all over its body, but also left a layer of frost energy that froze its skin and muscles, leading to cellular death. Before the Hell Ape's body could even touch the ground, Cain flashed toward the beast. His arms were broken, but his legs still worked, so he sent a vicious kick covered in astral wave and blood energy to its head. Just as the Hell Ape seemed to reach its end, the beast's fur ignited with powerful flames that pushed the trio away. Cain, William, and Antony were not able to get near the late wave champion beast and saw how this one used that chance to run away. Although the trio wanted to kill it, they were exhausted and wounded, so chasing after the late wave champion beast was not wise. Antony and William glanced at Cain for a second, and after this one nodded, they went to help the rest of the soldiers. The duo was tired and had little energy left, but they were able to put pressure on middle wave champion beasts. Cain would have wanted to help, but little energy was left in his body, and he received severe wounds that needed immediate attention. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 218 Clash with the Student Foss. 218 Clash with the Student Foss. Kain removed several wave champion beasts' hearts from his space ring before generating a mantle of blood lightning that devoured the blood in them and sent it into his body. His eyes grew sharp, and his ego wave burst with power as he focused all the astral wave and blood essence into his arm to improve the speed at which they healed. Dozens of battles took place around Kain, with the soldiers battling over 30 early wave champion beasts and 6 that had already reached the middle wave champion level. The soldiers made sure to stay away from Kain to avoid interrupting his recovery, and none of the wave champion beasts dared to get anywhere near him. After 5 hours and having devoured the blood of nearly 20 early wave champion beasts' hearts, Kain's arms had fully healed, and most of his internal wounds were already gone. Kain raised his arms and clenched them, smiling as he felt his strength. He then focused on the battlefield and released a small sigh. The battle with the Horde was a victory, and there were no casualties on their side, but all the middle wave champion beasts managed to escape, and most of the soldiers endured severe wounds that would force them to rest for several days. It was clear to Kain that they were not ready to advance beyond this point. The battle with the Hell Ape pushed the trio to their limits, and they nearly lost their lives more than once. A clash with a Horde with more than one late wave champion beast would carry significant casualties among the soldiers. After cleaning the battlefield, Kain led the soldiers back to the encampment, where they were told to rest for the next 2 days. Kain reached his tent and shut down communications as he adopted a meditative stance and focused. His heart had no frustration since he knew they would face resistance like this, and it happened later than he expected. Of course, that did not mean he would just accept it. Immediately, his mind began to search for ways to improve his power and that of the soldiers around him. There was not much to do regarding battle formation or equipment since they already used the beast they could handle, so the answer had to emerge from within. My current skills can unleash the full power of my astral wave and blood energy. Blood Hand is an exceptionally powerful technique, and searching for a new saint technique would be foolish. The best path forward is either awakening my visualization technique or evolving my Asura form. Asura form was a skill of Kain's previous life, and just like one would expect from the name of First Gear, there was a second one. He had meditated extensively on the technique and used the absolute life form system to decipher the next step forward. First Gear improved Kain's speed, acceleration, and talk by overlocking the heart's circulatory system. After blood renewal, his body grew strong enough to endure it without side effects, which is why he thought of taking the next step. According to his calculations, Second Gear would drive the rate of his blood circulatory system 5 times faster than First Gear, exponentially increasing his speed and agility, and that was just the beginning. Due to the current state of Kain's blood, Second Gear would generate a qualitative improvement in his metabolic systems, improving his speed of thought and reflexes, as well as the power of his muscles, causing a raw increase in his physical strength. Kain did not doubt that Second Gear would raise his battle power an entire level, allowing his physical strikes to overcome the defenses of someone like Khal without the need for Blood Hand. Unfortunately, such a powerful technique required an even mightier constitution. According to the simulation performed by the Absolute Life Form system, if Kain were to use it now, it would instantly lead to blood vessel rupture and cerebral hemorrhage, not to mention that it would submit all his organs to a level of stress they could not handle. To trigger Second Gear safely, Kain needed to achieve a 95% marrow washing, and even then, his body could not endure the stress for long. It was clear to Kain that Second Gear was not in the foreseeable future, so he turned his attention to his second card. Kain took the first step in the generation of his visualization technique the moment his alter ego came into existence. The key to advancing was learning to harvest the power of the entity inside his soul dimension and nurture it. After Kain's willpower rose to the Wave King level, he felt a change in his alter ego, and that feeling grew stronger after overcoming the ordeal that was the sudden appearance of the Lightning Fall Mantis. Once his alter ego reached the point in which Kain could draw its power from the ethereal into the material plane, The name of the visualization technique would come instinctively to him. Yet, he was still not at that point, and there was no direct way to accelerate things. The easiest way to improve my willpower would be by improving my cultivation. According to what Master said, the power and abilities one can harness from their alter ego would depend on their personality and cultivation in the ego-eternal path of power. Master's oceanic constitution must have evolved over the course of the years, but I am sure that even in its most basic form, it should have been of immense help. The feeling of hitting Zarak's body was still clear in Kane's mind, and he was sure that even now, with all his improvements, he would still be unable to harm this one. Understanding the strength, a visualization technique could grant made Kane eager to develop his own. He was sure that the power of his duality alter ego would be nothing short of amazing. No matter how much I want it, there is no way to forcefully trigger my visualization technique's awakening, and even if there were, it would undoubtedly affect its potential, so I would not take it. In the end, there was nothing Kane could do to force their way up, so he chose to look to the center of Blade Mountain. That zone must be full of packs led by middle wave champion beasts, and they would be the perfect training for the soldiers until their power rose high enough that they could take late wave champion beasts. Kane had stayed away from that zone since it could lead to an unnecessary clash with the student force, but it was not like he was afraid, so there was no hesitation as he sent the command to Antony and William. The next month went by without incident, with Kane, Antony, Williman, and all the soldiers that fought by their side growing stronger.
Boom!
The sound of explosions and broken bones echoed as Kane and his group butchered a pack of wave champion beasts. There were merely 25 of them, with a single middle wave champion beast leading them, so it was not hard for the soldiers to kill all of them in less than an hour. Kane buried his hand in the golden-winged wolf's chest, devouring the creature's blood essence when his eyes narrowed as he looked to the left. He was the first to see it, but it did not take long for the rest of the soldiers to notice the presence of a group made of 42 students. Dominic was the group's leader, and his eyes grew cold as he stared at Kane and the rest of the soldiers. A tense atmosphere emerged the moment both groups looked at each other. Although there were fewer students, 4 of them had already become wave champions. Still, many level 9 soldiers with powerful foundations and great battle experience could face them. In the end, it was impossible to say which side would be the winner in a clash, but one thing was inevitable, and that was that there would be substantial casualties on both sides. Kane removed his hand from the middle wave champion beast and sent the creature into his space ring as he stared at Dominic. A red light appeared in his eyes as he focused on the students and was ready to strike with killing intent if the other party showed any sign of violence. Although Dominic had a powerful desire to crush Kane, he was smart enough not to pick battles he could not win. If he attacked, and even one of the soldiers managed to escape alive, he would be charged with breaking the codes and rules of the Godslayer humankind empire.
Let's go.
Dominic said nothing else before leaving with the rest of his forces. The soldiers relaxed as they saw that and carried on recollecting the spoils of the battle. Everything is fine, but more and more clashes will happen as we remain in the area. I must ensure our forces are ready to handle any student's incursion. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 219, Invitation. 219 Invitation. Over the next month, soldiers and the students had several encounters, and there were times when battles almost started. It was common for those children of noble families to look down on regular soldiers, so they were enraged by the fact that they were taking down the packs they sought to kill. However, there was nothing the students could do since they could only depend on their strength in this place, and the backing of their families did not matter. Kane made sure that the soldiers knew they had to avoid conflicts and focus on increasing their power so they could face the late-wave champion beasts, but also gave the order to answer to any act of violence from the student side with absolute prejudice. Antony and William were growing more and more powerful, having solidified their cultivation and making strides to the middle wave champion level. Both were now using wave artifacts that greatly enhanced their battle powers and mastered new and more powerful techniques, making their combined power equal that of a late-wave champion beast. It would not be hard for both of them to take on the Hell Ape on their own if they faced this again, but the problem was that the packs at Blade Mountain's peak had more than just one late-wave champion beast. Simply relying on the duo would be foolish, since there was not enough time to raise their cultivation to a level where they could take care of multiple late-wave champion beasts independently. The entire military force had to grow powerful enough so they could at least hinder the movements of late-wave champion beasts. Cain understood that, which is why he focused on improving the power of the soldiers and his own. Right now, he was in his tent, and there was an expression of absolute focus on his face as his astral wave burst with power, and a foul substance emerged through his paws. He had suppressed his cultivation as much as he could. Yet, right now, his meridian had finally extended over his entire muscular system and pierced his skin, generating a direct path from the rebirth heart to the outside. The power of Cain's wave cloak, wave focus, and wave burst grew exponentially after finishing with level 6, and now he needed to branch his meridians again. In level 7, a cultivator must branch their meridians, generating a path from the outside world into their sacred organs. It would form a route for the life wave to enter the body, drastically improving your cultivation speed and stamina. A cultivator's meridians were like a new extremity, so branching them was an excruciating process, but Cain's eyes exploded with red light as he suppressed the pain. He could not allow any distraction as he had to focus on using his bursting astral wave and blood energy to cleanse his marrow. Every second counted, and Cain would not allow anything to mess with the improvement of his foundation, erasing everything from his mind other than the purification of his marrow. After his astral wave calmed down, Cain relaxed. He opened his eyes and waved his hand, generating a blast of blood lightning that burned all the filth covering his body. Cain clenched his fists, and a large smile appeared as he felt his strength and energy improvement. That thrill only grew stronger when he saw how all the fingers in both hands transformed into blood gems, and the force began to extend to the rest of the fist. Once Cain managed to alter both hands, he would have reached the limit of the second level of Blood Hand. He would have to wait to become a wave champion to start the third level or achieve flawless marrow.
System scan me.
The absolute life form system followed Cain's command as always, and it did not take long for a stream of information to appear in his mind. Scan of vessel completed. Name, Cain Lorifa. Race, Godslayer humankind. Path of power, astral rebirth, level 7 wave warrior. Lineage, lightning lupus. Wave talent, middle tier 6, high tier 6. Stats, strength 6, 7.9. Agility, 4.56. Vitality, 799.9. Wave, 5.9. Blood energy, 799.4. Marrow washing, 88% completion. Note, wave virus inside vessel, enhanced wave talent by 16.7%. Cain was satisfied with his stats. Each of them, including his agility, was off the charts for a level 7 wave warrior, especially his vitality that matched someone at the rank's peak. Despite the improvement of 4% in his marrow washing, his wave talent did not improve, but Cain expected something like that. The higher the tier, the harder it was to improve. The only thing that bothered Cain was the improvement of his marrow washing. It was 4%, which was very good, but even if he could keep that rate, which would be extremely difficult, he would only reach flawless marrow before becoming a wave champion. Many geniuses took flawless marrow as their goal, and Cain was among them until not too long ago, but now he wanted to rise even higher. To achieve a level that even the greatest geniuses of military noble families could only dream of, a 100% marrow washing.
I need to find a way to drastically improve the tempering of my bones if I want any chance to reach that level.
Cain was determined to do all in his power to reach that goal. It would not be easy and force him to push himself beyond his limits repeatedly, but the gains would be incredible if he managed to do it. Just his foundation would attain a level where Wave King would not be a possibility, but a certainty. After Cain's rise to level 7 and the upgrades of William and Antony, along with the overall improvement of all the soldiers, the military force was able to once again march higher into Blade Mountain, facing packs led by late-wave champion beasts. 9 months had passed since the hunt's start, and the military fosse had risen over 30,000 meters into Blade Mountain. At that point, the area had all sorts of craters and fists indentation. Most believe it to be the remains of a battle between king beasts, but those were actually left by a certain clash between 3 very powerful cultivators. Cain returned to his tent when night fell, and he was so exhausted that he fell to the ground. They had just faced a pack with 2 late-wave champion beasts, and the pressure he, Antony, and William faced was overwhelming. It was not the first time they faced that particular pack, but today was the day they pushed themselves and used every ounce of power inside their bodies to kill the late-wave champion beasts instead of just making them flee the battlefield. Just as he was about to fall asleep, Cain saw that a message had reached his AI chip module, and the one that sent it was no other than his counterpart in the student fosse, Dominic. There was no doubt that Dominic hated his gut, and he had no problem with that since the feeling was mutual, which is why Cain was so confused to see this one sending a message to him. He had nothing to lose by seeing what was inside, so he opened the file and got an invitation. Dominic wanted the soldier fosse led by him, Antony, and William to help the student fosse take care of a pack. Dominic knew that Cain would have many questions, so he wrote all the details into the file. It turned out that the student fosse had come in contact with a mine full of wave crystals, and it seemed there were mid and even high-quality wave crystals inside. Although the Scion would have wanted to keep everything for himself, there was a strong pack with 4 late-wave champion beasts protecting the mine and devouring the wave crystals inside it. If they did not move fast enough, those beasts would eat everything and leave nothing, so speed was of the essence. After reading that letter, Cain had a lot to consider, but the first thing he did was rest. He closed his eyes, and after making sure the absolute life form system surveilled the area, he fell asleep. 5 hours later, Cain opened his eyes. He was still tired but had regained enough strength for a reconnaissance mission. Dominic did not reveal the localization of the wave crystal mine in the message, but it was not hard for Cain to predict the movements of the student fosse using the times they clashed with the soldiers as a reference. Cain left the encampment after ensuring Antony and William were ready to handle any possible night incursion. Then he traveled to the side of the mountain occupied by the student fosse, and after almost 2 hours, a mine full of wave crystal appeared in his ego wave. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 220 Lightning Lupus, Fight. 220 Lightning Lupus, Fight. Cain slowly spread his ego wave into the mine, analyzing every wave beast inside. His mastery over free ego was high enough to hide it from those beasts as he thoroughly analyzed their battle powers. Just as he reached the bottom of the mine, he felt 2 sets of eyes focusing on him. Cain did not hesitate before immediately retrieving his ego wave and using void breath to hide his presence before leaving the arena.
Roar. SSSSS.
Powerful bestial howls emerged from the mine as 2 wave champion beasts detected someone watching them. Luckily, Cain had been very careful, not revealing his presence and leaving the place as soon as those wave champion beasts detected his ego wave. Cain glanced at the mine as he fled. For those beasts to detect his ego wave, they were not only extremely powerful, but their perception was top-notch, so any assassination attempt for his part would be suicide. Peak wave champion beast. A cold light appeared in Cain's eyes as he understood that 2 of the 4 so-called late wave champion beasts were peak wave champion beasts. There was a chance that Dominic did not know, but it was most likely that the Scion knew and just hid it. The good news was that the number of wave champion beasts inside the mine did not surpass 40, although half were middle wave champion beasts. Cain returned to the encampment and called William and Antony to his tent. There he explained what he found out and discussed their next step. Although Cain was the hunt leader, accepting Dominic's invitation was not something he felt comfortable doing without asking for the opinion of the other 2. After some discussion, the trio decided to accept Dominic's invitation. Sooner or later, they would have to face that pack, and it was better to take care of them before they consumed every wave crystal inside the mine. Cain did not waste time and responded to Dominic with the condition for the work, exactly what they would take care of, and the amount of wealth they would keep for themselves. Dominic was surprised when he saw that message since it had information about the mine and pack that he had not disclosed. However, he did not delay things and accepted Kane's conditions since they were fair. Once Kane saw that everything was in order and the fine details of the mission were taken care of, he sent a message to the soldiers' AI chips, informing them of the conjoined mission between the soldier and student forces. 15:0. Once Kane saw that everything was in order and the fine details of the mission were taken care of, he sent a message to the soldiers' AI chips, informing them of the conjoined mission between the soldier and student forces. There were many soldiers that did not like what they read since the last encounters they had with the student force had soured their already bad relationship, but Kane did not ask their opinion. He, Antony, and William would put their lives on the line when they faced the peak wave champion beast, and the others would follow through or suffer the consequences of insubordination. The soldiers led by Kane, Antony, and William meet with the student force 5 meters away from the mine's entrance. The ones at the head of the student force were Dominic, Amos, and another young man with characteristics of the Hellblazer family. Now that there were many wave champions among the students, Carl was far from being among the top 3, and Joseph took that place. Kane glanced at Joseph, and his eyes narrowed. The young man had a very powerful foundation, but it did not seem this one rose to wave champion after having achieved flawless marrow. Still, Kane did not look down on the man since the power of his bloodline made him a real threat. Dominic and Kane stared at each other briefly before nodding and flashing to the mine. A little over 300 warriors were between both groups, but even if they worked together, none felt in the mood to chat. Once they were less than 200 meters from the mine entrance, soldiers and students unleashed their wave cloak and made it burst with power. Kane and Dominic knew they could not trust each other, so even if they were working together, they would not fight together. Each force would take care of one peak and late wave champion beast along with half of the pack and establish their battlefield away from the other. That is why soldiers and students made their wave burst, alerting the beasts of their presence. None of them worried that the beasts would remain inside the mine since, just like humans were greedy, beasts were extremely territorial and would respond to any challenge to their authority with fierceness. The first one to emerge from the mine was a massive insect-like beast that resembled a giant centipede. The creature had a dark exoskeleton, and a green liquid dropped from its fangs and legs. Dominic adopted a solemn expression as he stared at the peak wave champion beasts by the name of 100 Poisons. He grabbed his massive sword and waved it with all his power, sending an enormous wind blade to the beast. Despite its massive body, 100 Poisons managed to dodge that wind blade, and its eyes focused on Dominic as it charged to this one alongside several more wave champion beasts. When Dominic saw how one of the late wave champion beasts was accompanying 100 Poisons, he fired another strike before moving away with the student force. Kane saw the number of wave champion beasts that went after the student force and was around half of the battle strength of the entire pack inside the mine. Both peak wave champion beasts seemed to have already divided the other beasts, making their job easier.
Rumbled.
The sound of lightning drew Kane's attention, and he turned to the entrance of the mine as a mighty wolf emerged from it. The peak wave champion beast had white fur bathed in blue lightning. A small smile appeared on Kane's face as he stared at the peak wave champion beast he had chosen to face, a lightning lupus. The Godslayer human and wave beast looked at each other and felt the bloodline running in the other. However, the only response they incited was killing intent. The fact they shared the same lineage did not matter as they were from different species, and right now, one had the sole mission of killing the other. Kane's energy exploded as blood lightning covered his body, and the fingers in both hands transformed into blood gems. He would not see the end of this fight if he did not unleash all his strength from the star. Not far away from Kane, William unleashed all his power, generating an ice armor to grow above his wave artifact. Once the aura of the duo reached its peak, Kane and William flashed toward the lightning lupus, and they were not alone since the 7 strongest essence wave cultivators among the soldier force moved behind them. The lightning lupus, life wave burst and flashed toward Kane and William just as the essence wave cultivators unleashed a barrage of spells against it. Those spells moved at supersonic speed as the essence wave cultivators pushed their energy to the limit, but even then, the lightning lupus could dodge all of them while approaching the duo. It was about to reach Kane and William when several light arrows that hid in the shadow of the other spells collided with its body. Antony had hidden his aura and joined the other essence wave cultivators, only showing his power in the last second so he could take the lightning lupus by surprise. Those light arrows did minor damage to the lightning lupus due to the powerful defenses of the lightning armor around its body, but hindered its movements long enough for Kane and William to land a punch in its chest. Kane and William's joint strike sent the lightning lupus flying toward the mine entrance's edge, but before the dust could disperse, the beasts flashed back into the fray. William raised his arms in the last second as a lightning claw clashed with it. The lightning lupus paw was small, but the young man felt a mountain crashing against him. The lightning lupus reflexes and speed surprised the rest of the soldiers, but there was one that knew just how fast and durable the beast was. The instant the lightning lupus claw stroked against William's arms, a kick bathed in blood lightning and charged with a massive amount of astral wave landed on the beast's ribs. That claw strike sent William flying away just as Kane's kick pushed the lightning lupus to the side, and that was just the start since a new barrage of spells fell into the beast before this one could get up. Kane's eyes burst with red light as the full power of his ego wave focused on the lightning lupus movements and instructed the soldiers when and where to attack. He knew that if the beast was left unhindered for a second, at least one of the Essene wave cultivators behind him would die. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates.